Welcome to Coins Hunter USA, the ultimate destination for rare coin discoveries from across the United States. If you're passionate about hidden treasures, valuable collectibles, and the rich history behind American currency, you're in the right place. In today's video, we're shining the spotlight on a legendary piece of U.S. coinage, the Washington quarter. You may have held one in your hands countless times, but what if one of them is actually worth a fortune? Stick around, because this coin could be much more valuable than you think. Let's dive into the fascinating world of rare quarters and find out what makes this coin so special. Top 1. Today you're watching Coins Hunter USA, the place where history, value, and passion for coins all come together. If you're someone who enjoys the thrill of discovering forgotten coins that might be worth thousands, then you're in for a real treat today, because in this episode, we're diving deep into the story of a coin that's been sitting quietly in pockets, jars, and drawers for decades, until now. It's none other than the United States Washington quarter from 1973. At first glance, this quarter looks just like any other. It's got that familiar profile of George Washington on the front and the iconic eagle on the back. Millions were minted. It was used in vending machines, laundromats, parking meters, and probably passed through your hands at some point in life. But what most people don't realize is that some of these 1973 Washington quarters are worth a whole lot more than 25 cents. So how did such a common coin become such a rare and expensive collector's item? Let's find out. The year 1973 was a busy one in American history. Vietnam War tensions were still high, the Watergate scandal was shaking politics, and inflation was creeping into everyday life. Amidst all this, the U.S. Mint continued producing standard coinage for circulation. Over 346 million Washington quarters were struck that year, meaning this wasn't a low mintage coin. So what makes this one so different? Here's the secret: rarity isn't just about quantity. It's about condition, error, and perfection. Let's talk about condition first. Most of the quarters minted in 1973 were used in everyday transactions. They were tossed in pockets, scratched in wallets, worn down in circulation. A quarter from that year that has survived in flawless, uncirculated condition is already a big deal. Collectors crave these coins that still shine, with all the details crisp, sharp, and untouched by time. Now, let's talk about errors, the magic words in any coin collector's world. Some 1973 Washington quarters have been discovered with rare minting errors that make them incredibly valuable. These include off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned and part of the image is missing, double die obverse, DDO, errors, where elements like the word liberty or in God we trust appear to have a shadow or doubling effect, because the coin was struck twice slightly out of alignment, clipped planchets, where a part of the coin's edge is missing due to a miscut, wrong metal errors, where a quarter was accidentally struck on a different metal blank, like a nickel or foreign coin. Planchet: each of these errors creates a unique version of the coin, and the more dramatic or rare the error, the more valuable the coin becomes. Imagine holding a 1973 Washington quarter that looks completely different from the others. Imagine a coin with a perfectly crisp strike, not a single scratch, and maybe even a visible minting error. That's when we go from pocket change to collector's gold. The demand for these coins isn't just from hobbyists. Auction houses and serious investors also hunt for these rare specimens. The reason is simple: there are so few of them left in pristine condition, and that number only gets smaller as time goes on. So if you ever come across a 1973 quarter, take a moment to examine it closely. Look for the mint mark under Washington's neck, either a D for Denver or no mark at all for Philadelphia. Then check its surface. Is it scratched? Worn? Or does it gleam like the day it was minted? Now, let's say you're lucky, really lucky. You find a 1973 Washington quarter in gem uncirculated condition, with no signs of wear, perfect luster, and possibly even a minting error. You might want to sit down for this, because one such coin, in top-tier condition with rare characteristics, has sold for a jaw-dropping $69,000. Yes, you heard that right. $69,000 for a coin that originally cost just 25 cents. It's stories like these that make coin collecting so exciting. You never know what treasures you might find hiding in plain sight. A coin tossed in a drawer decades ago could turn out to be worth more than your car, or even more than your savings account. So, take a moment today. Check your change. Look in your old piggy banks. Ask your parents or grandparents if they have any old rolls of quarters. You might just strike gold with a 1973 Washington quarter. Top 2. We're about to uncover the fascinating story of the 1974 Washington quarter, a coin that might just be sitting in your collection right now, and if it's the right one, it could change your life. Let's start with the basics. The 1974 Washington quarter is part of a series that began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. His profile, strong, stoic, and enduring, has remained on the quarter ever since. And in 1974, just 1 year before the U.S. Mint switched to the bicentennial design, this version was still circulating widely. That makes it the last regular design quarter before a major national redesign. A quiet historical marker in coin form. Now, most of the 1974 quarters were made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, not silver. By this time, the U.S. Mint had stopped producing silver quarters for circulation. But here's the twist: some rare examples of 1974 quarters were mistakenly struck on silver planchets, intended for other coins or test runs. These mistakes didn't go unnoticed for long, and collectors took serious interest. So how does a coin go from being worth 25 cents to tens of thousands of dollars? It comes down to 3 major factors: condition, rarity, and minting errors. Let's talk about condition first. Most coins that make it into circulation get scratched, worn down, tossed in drawers, rubbed against keys and coins, and lose their original shine. That's just life for pocket change. But every now and then, a coin is set aside early, never used, never damaged, perfectly preserved. These are called uncirculated coins, and their value skyrockets when kept in mint state condition, especially when graded by professional services. Now let's get into what collectors love most: errors. The 1974 Washington quarter has some incredible and rare minting mistakes that make it stand out. Here are a few that drive coin collectors wild. Double die obverse, DDO. If you see doubling in the letters, Liberty, or the motto, In God We Trust, you might be holding a double die error. These coins were struck twice slightly off from each other, creating a bold, noticeable duplication in the design. Off-center strikes, a portion of the design is missing, and the coin appears misaligned. The more off-center, the more valuable, especially if the date is still visible. Wrong planchet errors. Some quarters were mistakenly struck on planchets meant for other coins, such as pennies or even foreign denominations. These oddities make a coin instantly collectible because they're extremely rare and usually one-of-a-kind. Clipped planchets. A section of the coin appears to be cut off or missing. These happen when the metal sheet feeding into the coin press has already been punched, leaving an irregular edge. Now imagine this: your 1974 quarter is not only in perfect mint condition, but it also has one of these rare errors. What you have then is no longer just currency. It's a collector's trophy. It's a time capsule from the 70s. It's something most people will never see in their lifetime. Let's not forget about the mint marks, either. The 1974 quarter was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark; Denver Mint, marked with a D; and San Francisco Mint, marked with an S. The San Francisco Mint versions were proof coins, not meant for circulation, and these are usually shinier, mirror-like coins that were sold to collectors. But here's the exciting part: a few of these proof coins were improperly handled or ended up in circulation, which makes them even more valuable when discovered outside of sets. Every serious coin collector dreams of finding a coin that defies the odds, a coin that seems ordinary at first, but under closer inspection reveals its true value. That's the magic of numismatics. You start with curiosity, and sometimes end up with a coin that's worth a small fortune. So now, let's get to the part you've all been waiting for. If you happen to own a 1974 Washington quarter in flawless, uncirculated condition, and especially one with a visible minting error, like a double die or wrong planchet, you could be looking at a coin that has sold for an astonishing $75,000. Yes, you heard that right. $75,000 US. For a single quarter. That's the power of rarity. That's the reward of paying attention to the small details. That's the thrill of being a coin hunter. So before you toss that change in a tip jar or spend it on a soda, take a moment. Look at your quarters. Check the date. Feel the weight. Inspect the edges. One of them might just be your lucky find. Top 3. We're diving into a coin that many people still carry in their pockets or keep in old coin jars, but few know it could be worth thousands. So get ready, because we're about to unlock the incredible secrets of the United States Washington quarter from 1979. Now you might be thinking, wait, 1979? That's not that long ago. And you're right. It's a modern coin by most standards. But here's the twist, not every 1979 quarter is created equal. Some versions of this seemingly ordinary coin have been discovered with features so rare, so unique, and so perfectly preserved, that they've commanded eye-popping prices at auctions. So what makes the 1979 Washington quarter so special? Let's take a closer look. By 1979, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for nearly half a century. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the design became iconic. The obverse features Washington's profile, and the reverse carries the familiar image of the American eagle perched with wings spread, a powerful symbol of freedom and strength. The quarters minted in 1979 were made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, as silver coins had been removed from circulation more than a decade earlier. More than 500 million Washington quarters were produced that year between the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. But within that massive production run, a few very rare coins slipped through the cracks, and those are the ones collectors are hunting for. Let's start with condition, one of the biggest factors that determine a coin's value. Coins that went straight from the mint into protected storage, untouched by circulation, can be classified as uncirculated or mint state. These coins show no signs of wear. Their surfaces are shiny, clean, and flawless. Finding a 1979 quarter in mint state condition is already a challenge, but when you combine that with rarity or minting errors, the coin becomes incredibly valuable. So, what kinds of errors should you be looking for? First up, double die errors. These occur when a coin is struck more than once with a misaligned die, creating a slight doubling effect in the design. On the 1979 Washington quarter, you might notice this in the lettering of Liberty or In God We Trust, or even on the numbers in the date. These double die varieties are very rare and highly desirable. Next, we have off-center strikes. These happen when the blank planchet, the metal disc used to make the coin, is not properly aligned during the strike. The result is a coin that looks lopsided or partially blank. The more extreme the misalignment, the more valuable the coin, especially if the date is still visible. Another exciting error to watch for is the broad strike. This happens when the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing the metal to spread out beyond its normal dimensions. A 1979 quarter with a broad strike error can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars if it's in excellent condition. Now, let's not forget the wrong planchet errors. These are among the rarest and most valuable. In some cases, a quarter was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a different denomination, like a nickel or even a foreign coin. These mistakes are incredibly rare and are considered major finds in the coin collecting world. One of the most intriguing stories involves 1979 quarters struck on Susan B. Anthony dollar planchets by mistake. These are highly collectible error coins that combine two different denominations into one strange and fascinating mint mishap, and of course, we must talk about proof coins from the San Francisco Mint. These coins were not intended for general circulation and were sold directly to collectors. They have a mirror-like finish and are struck with extra care. Some of these proof quarters from 1979 ended up in circulation accidentally or were mishandled by collectors. A proof coin in perfect condition can still be extremely valuable, especially if it shows signs of a rare error. So here's the bottom line. If you own a 1979 Washington quarter, don't assume it's just pocket change. Take a close look. Examine the details. Check for doubling in the letters, off-center strikes, or anything unusual in the edges or weight. If you're unsure, it might be worth getting your coin professionally graded, because if you're one of the lucky few who happen to own a 1979 Washington quarter in flawless uncirculated condition, or one with a dramatic and verified minting error, you might just be holding something far more valuable than you think. Now, here comes the moment everyone's been waiting for. One extraordinary example of a 1979 Washington quarter, graded at the highest level and featuring a rare error, has been sold for an unbelievable $85,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, 85,000 United States dollars. For a coin that originally cost just 25 cents. It's an incredible reminder that sometimes, the most valuable things in life are hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered. So before you spend your change or roll up those quarters, take a second look. That small piece of metal in your palm could be your next big treasure. Top 4. We're talking about the United States Washington quarter from 1981, a coin that looks ordinary on the surface but could be worth far more than you ever imagined. You see, not all coins are created equal. Even in years when millions of coins were minted, tiny differences, rare errors, or exceptional condition can turn a common quarter into a collector's dream. And the 1981 Washington quarter is one of those coins that hides its potential behind a familiar face. So sit back, listen closely, and let's explore what makes this coin from the early 1980s so valuable, so rare, and so exciting to collectors around the world. Let's rewind for a moment to 1981. Ronald Reagan had just been sworn in as President of the United States. The economy was dealing with inflation, and people were keeping a closer eye on their money than ever before. But while most Americans were focused on gas prices and interest rates, the U.S. Mint was quietly continuing its production of circulating coins, including the quarter bearing the image of George Washington, which had already become an American classic since 1932. The Washington quarter of 1981 was struck at 3 major mints: Philadelphia, with no mint mark; Denver, with a D; and San Francisco, with an S for proof coins. These coins were part of the regular run, intended for everyday use. In fact, hundreds of millions were produced that year. So naturally, you might think these coins are just common change, but that's where the story takes a turn, because among the millions of 1981 quarters, a small number of rare and unusual coins stand out, coins with unusual features, fascinating errors, or perfect condition that make them worth far more than 25 cents. And yes, some of them have sold for thousands, even tens of thousands, of dollars. Let's talk about why. First, we have to look at mint errors, which are some of the most exciting finds in coin collecting. These aren't damage caused after the coin left the mint, these are mistakes made during production, which makes them much rarer and more valuable. One of the most desirable types is the double die error, where parts of the coin's design, like the word liberty or the motto, "In God We Trust," appear doubled. This is due to a misalignment during the striking process. On 1981 quarters, these doubling effects can be extremely subtle, but when detected and verified, they can drastically increase the value of the coin. Another striking error to look for is the off-center strike, where the design is shifted to one side, leaving a blank crescent on the coin's edge. A well-centered off-strike with a visible date is rare, and collectors love these quirky, imperfect pieces. Next up, wrong planchet errors. These are wild. Imagine a quarter that was accidentally struck on a blank meant for a nickel or even a foreign coin. These planchet errors can cause size, weight, and color differences that are immediately noticeable, and extremely valuable. Then we have clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin's edge is missing due to a faulty blank. These aren't as common as you might think, and finding a clean clipped coin with the full date and mint mark intact is considered a prize among collectors. Now, beyond errors, the real jackpot lies in condition. Coins that have survived the past 4 decades in pristine, untouched, uncirculated condition are not easy to find. These are the coins that never entered circulation, they were pulled aside early, kept safe in rolls, envelopes, or collector albums, and never got a single scratch. When graded by professionals and assigned a mint state, MS, rating of 67 or higher, their value skyrockets. And then, of course, we have the proof coins minted in San Francisco. These coins were never intended for everyday use. They were struck with specially prepared dies and given extra attention to detail. Some escaped into circulation by accident, while others were mishandled or forgotten in collections. A proof coin from 1981 in perfect condition, especially with an error, can fetch very high prices at auctions. Now imagine you're holding one of these 1981 quarters. Maybe you found it in an old drawer, inherited it, or spotted it in a roll of loose change. Maybe it's shiny, well-centered, and you notice something strange, an extra letter, a missing edge, a weight that feels just a bit off. Before you dismiss it, get it checked, because one single coin, a 1981 Washington quarter in flawless mint state condition, paired with a rare mint error and authenticated by a reputable grading service, has sold for a mind-blowing $89,000. Yes, that's right. 89,000 United States dollars. All for a coin that once sat unnoticed in someone's pocket. That's the power of numismatics. That's the thrill of the hunt. And that's why coin collecting never gets old. Every coin tells a story. Every coin holds history. And some of them, just a few, hold incredible value. So check your change. Dig through those old jars and albums. Because the next valuable coin could already be in your home, just waiting to be discovered. Top 5. We're talking about the United States Washington quarter from 1982, a coin that hides some huge secrets, and potentially an even bigger payday. Now, at first glance, the 1982 Washington quarter doesn't seem very special. It has the same familiar design we've all seen 1,000 times, George Washington's profile on the obverse, and the proud eagle perched on a bundle of arrows on the reverse. It's a design that's been around since 1932 and used on billions of quarters, but as we always say in the world of numismatics, it's not just about what the coin looks like, it's about how it was made, how it survived, and how rare it truly is. Let's dive into the history for just a moment. The year was 1982. The US was in the middle of an economic recession. Inflation and high interest rates were shaking households across the country. And the US Mint, for the first time in modern history, was making a tough decision to cut costs. As a result, 1982 marked a significant shift in the way coins were produced, and those changes had a lasting effect on the Washington Quarter Series. In fact, one of the most important things to note is this: in 1982, the U.S. Mint stopped producing uncirculated coin sets for collectors, a decision that created an immediate shortage of high-grade examples for that year. So, finding a 1982 quarter in pristine, mint state condition? Incredibly difficult. Most of the 1982 quarters were released straight into circulation, where they were tossed, spent, scratched, and worn down. That's why coins from this year, especially ones with brilliant luster, sharp details, and zero wear, are so highly prized today. But there's more. In 1982, the U.S. Mint also introduced a change to the quarter's composition. While quarters had already been struck on a copper-nickel-clad planchet since the 1960s, 1982 introduced new, lighter planchets due to metal shortages and cost-saving measures. This transition led to several rare and valuable minting errors that continue to intrigue collectors to this day. Let's talk about a few of those now. First up, no mint mark errors. In 1982, quarters were produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Traditionally, coins from Philadelphia had no mint mark, while Denver coins featured a D. However, due to errors in the minting process, some 1982 quarters from the Denver Mint were released without a D mint mark. These no mint mark Denver quarters are rare and highly collectible. Next, we have the famous small date and large date varieties, especially found in 1982 coins like the Lincoln cent, but a similar idea applies when you're comparing font styles and design shifts on 1982 quarters. A close eye can reveal striking differences between coins, and any variety or inconsistency makes your coin stand out to serious collectors. Then, of course, come the true minting errors, the gems every collector dreams of. These include double die obverse errors, where parts of the design appear doubled due to a misaligned strike. Off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing and shifted to one side. Wrong planchet errors, where a quarter was struck on a blank intended for another coin, such as a nickel or even a foreign denomination. Clipped planchets, where the edge of the coin is missing a piece due to a misfeed during production. Each of these errors adds to a coin's rarity. And when one of these error coins also happens to be in perfect mint state condition, the value doesn't just rise, it skyrockets. And let's not forget about the proof coins produced in San Francisco. Although they weren't released for circulation, some proof coins escaped into the wild or were poorly handled by owners. If you happen to have a 1982 proof quarter with a unique flaw or it's graded at the top level, it could be worth significantly more than face value. Now here's where things get even more exciting. Imagine this: you stumble upon an old coin jar. Inside, tucked away for decades, is a shiny 1982 quarter. Maybe it looks just a little different. Maybe it's unusually sharp or has a small detail you've never noticed before. You send it in for grading, and it comes back as a rare error, mint state condition, flawless surface, and a verified misprint. What happens next? That one little quarter, once worth 25 cents, is now worth $95,000. Yes. You heard that right. 95,000 United States dollars for a coin most people wouldn't look at twice. That's the magic of coin collecting. That's the thrill of the hunt. And that's exactly why we do what we do here at Coins Hunter USA. So take a moment today. Check your change. Look in those old drawers, those forgotten boxes, those rolls of quarters passed down from your parents or grandparents. You never know what you might find, and one of those coins just might be your $95,000 surprise. If you enjoyed this video and want more thrilling stories about coins that are secretly worth thousands, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss our next discovery. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy hunting. And may your next coin be a priceless treasure in disguise.